It always fills me with a little bit of joy and excitement when I can share good news with you. Goodness knows we can all use some. Yesterday marked the lowest number of coronavirus related fatalities in the United States in 2 weeks. This was just a few days after the deaths had spiked to 4,591 in a single day. Yesterday, the U.S. lost 1,433 people. Terrible, terrible. The total death count now is 42,374. But according to the data, yesterday was the lowest number of deaths due to COVID 19 or attributed to COVID 19 in 2 full weeks. So it is beginning to decline. The curve, and of course, we know that the hospitalizations are pretty dramatically lowering. The new infections are lowering. We are grateful that no one ever failed to get a ventilator that needed a ventilator to try to stay alive. That, of course, was a story that the media has yet to revisit, unless, of course, you're Rich Lowry from National Review, which the president cited yesterday from his press briefing. And incidentally, there's a great example of why CNN and MSNBC and the New York Times don't want the president's press briefings to be covered. You think the mainstream media that utterly blew it on the issue of ventilators wants to be reminded of that by the president of the United States? You think he wants, they want him calling them out like that? And yet, pretty valuable information as he holds these daily task force briefings, giving reporters access to a president in a way that we've never seen. You've never seen a daily press event like this where reporters not only question him, but harangue him and badger him and interrupt him and try to insult him, degrade him. And of course, he's the wrong guy to do that with. He's literally the last person in the universe you should try to pick a fight with because he punches back. And they don't like it. They don't like it at all. They hate it. They hate him and they hate us. They hate any American that supports him and wants this thing to be successful. I just am so wary of the bad faith actors. What's really the agenda in saying keep this country shut down for 18 more months? And yes, there are people saying that. I've gotten emails from people who are critical of me and critical of my views and who say only dummies doubt that we should wait until there's a vaccination before people can leave their homes again and before people can go back to work. There are literally people who say they want Americans to stop, to keep from working and stay sheltered in place for 18 months. What is that? November of 2021? Really? Really? Here's what the president said about the ventilators. This is so interesting too because I keep looking for the mainstream media, the New York Times, the Washington Post. That was a huge story for days. We went through it. Remember Governor Cuomo saying, I need 30,000 ventilators. People are going to be dying. We're not going to be able to keep people alive. They're going to be stacking up in the halls. It's going to be Armageddon. It's going to be hell on earth without the ventilators. Well, whatever happened to the story about the ventilators? Funny, Rich Lauer pointed it out. The media absolutely, completely, unequivocally blew it. They were wrong. Here's what the president said yesterday on the issue of the ventilators.
And we did a great job with the ventilators. Unfortunately, the press doesn't cover it other than the fair press. But so then you say, gee, they need ventilators. We don't need ventilators. And that's under pressure we did that. Nobody that needed a ventilator in this country didn't get one. And a story that just came out, how the media completely blew the Trump ventilator story. I'm sure you'd love to see that. That's by Rich Lowry, respected journalist and person. How the media completely blew the Trump ventilator story, which unfortunately it did. And here's another one that just came out. Kyle Smith, the ventilator shortage that wasn't. The ventilator shortage that wasn't. Because we got it fixed. And we're also going to help the states, by the way, stockpile ventilators. So if a thing like this should happen again, they've got them.
You know, So this is such an intriguing issue because I watched Rachel Maddow a little bit last night rail against conservative media and how, the whole we saw this the other day. Fox News is killing people, and the conservative media is so reckless. You think the mainstream media might want to revisit the ventilator topic now that we know that nobody in America went without one who needed one? There was a ton of media criticism, remember? At the outset, there was a huge challenge. Rich Lowry writes about it. The president's right. It was over at National Review and published in the New York Post. The administration created a data team. The White House created a data team. It used hospital billings to estimate how many ventilators were in each state, how many were being utilized, so it didn't have to depend on people panicking and getting poorly informed requests. And another important realization was that FEMA could pull off just-in-time delivery. There was a lot of flexibility. The media said this is a failure. The media portrayed it all as a failure. If the administration had tried to meet Cuomo's estimated need for 30, 40,000 ventilators, everything would have gone out the door and for no good reason, and then states that needed them wouldn't have them. And of course, to add to the nation's overall supply, FEMA did act quickly, much faster than is possible in the regular process, writes Rich Lowry, to get so-called notifications to purchase to ventilator manufacturers so they could begin work and hold their inventory. By any measure, the Trump administration succeeded compared with where we thought we would be less than a month ago. If the media, Rich Lowry says, weren't so devoted to gotcha idiocy, more people might know about it. See, they don't want you to hear at the press briefing yesterday that the media blew it on the issue of ventilators, and they were utterly wrong. The president and the team got it right. And thank goodness nobody in America who needed a ventilator went without one. This is the kind of misinformation that Rachel Maddow's never going to share with you. She won't revisit it. The New York Times won't revisit it because it doesn't help their bad faith agenda. We need to have conversations with people who are exercising good faith. That's my whole focus these days. Because you just can't trust much of what is coming out of the mouths of people on TV or online or in newspapers. You just can't. And we have got to be about trying to recover through this thing, lift people up, keep people safe, and get people back to work in a way that is safe and mindful and careful. It's a very difficult decision. It's a difficult, anguishingly difficult thing to do.